video, we are going to learn about pollinators. Maybe you've heard that word before, but aren't quite sure what it means. A pollinator is any animal that contributes to the pollination of plants. Pollen is a powdery substance that is produced by the male part of the flower, called the stamen. In order for seeds to be made, the pollen must travel down to the pistil, which is at the base of the flower. This can happen with wind and water, but most of it is done by animals. So if any animal helps this process along, they are called a pollinator.
Bats are usually not the first animals we think of when it comes to pollination. Despite their low profile, they are very important pollinators. One of the clearest examples of this relationship is seen with the agave tree, which is used to make tequila. Bats are agave's main pollinators and will actually time their migration to follow the blooming agave plants from southern United States into Mexico. Other plants, like balsam trees, which produce the lightest lumber in the world, and bananas, which are an important export for many countries, are pollinated by bats. All flowers that are pollinated by bats are referred to as Chiropterophilus. The literal translation of this word means bat-loving, and this can be seen in their characteristics. They are bell-shaped to allow the head of the bat access. They are large and usually white flowers that only open at night. They release a musky odor to signal the bats they are open, and the flowers appear either on the trunk or rope-like structures to allow the bats to find and approach them easily. Another pollinator group that significantly contributes to pollination in tropical zones are birds. Since the study of pollination originated in Europe, where birds are not the main pollinators, their role in this is often undervalued. In the tropics, there are over 2,000 species of birds which will pollinate flowers. The flowers that are pollinated by birds are called Ornithophilus, which means bird-loving. There are 54 times more Ornithophilus flowers in neotropical zones compared to temperate North American zones. One group of birds that are specialized to feed on nectar are the sunbirds. They are an old world tropical passerine bird found in Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and northern Australia. They do not hover as hummingbirds do, but feed almost exclusively on nectar. The flowers that sunbirds pollinate are sturdier than hummingbird flowers, as they have a landing pad for the sunbirds. One example of this is the bird of paradise flower, which has a landing pad that ensures the pollen is spread from flower to flower. Overall, birds also have a poor sense of smell, so many of the flowers that they visit are generally odorless. They also tend to be tubular and have petals that are recurved so that they are out of the way. Much of what attracts the bird is color, particularly red. This means that many bird-pollinated flowers are a vibrant red color.
It's time for Conservation Considerations!
In this segment, we hope to inspire you by sharing what Arasha is doing at Cedar Haven to care for God's creation through conservation.
In North America, the main animals that contribute to pollination are insects.
Before we learn about insects that pollinate, like butterflies, moths, and bees, we need to understand insects as a whole. There are several defining characteristics for insects, the first of which is that they need to have an exoskeleton. This means that their skeleton is on the outside of their bodies like a protective coat of armor. All insects also have a segmented body which consists of a head, thorax, and abdomen. The final characteristics that all insects have is 3 pairs of jointed legs, compound eyes, and a single pair of antennae. This has been proven to be a very successful body plan, as there are over 1 million insect species we have found, with another estimated 3 million still undiscovered. Unfortunately, important insects such as bees, butterflies, and dragonflies are declining at different rates depending on their location.
At Cedar Haven, we're making sure to monitor our dragonfly and bee species on the property. The number of different species of bees we have here at Cedar Haven is not a cause for concern. Thankfully, we have found a variety of dragonfly populations which points towards a healthy aquatic ecosystem at Cedar Haven. Butterflies and moths are part of the order Lepidoptera, which are defined by their scales. Butterflies and moths have 2 pairs of wings, which have tiny microscopic scales on them. Just as you would think of scales on a fish or snake, butterflies have these on their wings. They also have a long tongue called a proboscis, which is specifically designed like a combination of a straw and a sponge to help them reach nectar. The proboscis sits coiled up against its head and can be unfurled to reach nectar at the base of the flower. The eastern tiger swallowtail is one butterfly that feeds on a variety of flowers. As a caterpillar, it can be found feeding on tulip trees, wild black cherry, and sweet bay magnolia. Once it becomes an adult and emerges from its chrysalis, then it will start feeding on plant nectar from milkweed, phlox, and lilacs. Unlike birds, both moths and butterflies can be attracted using their sense of smell. For some hawk moths, they are able to detect the fragrant honeysuckle flower when it is completely hidden from sight. This means that in general, both color and fragrance are important ways that flowers entice butterflies and moths to their sweet nectar. Bees are the classic example of a pollinator and are the most important group of pollinators in North America. They are distinguished from their close relatives, ants and wasps, by having 5 eyes and jointed antennae. Their eyesight is different from humans, as they can't detect the color red, but actually have the ability to see into the ultraviolet range. This allows them to see color patterns that humans cannot detect. Honeybees are non-native but play a crucial role in pollination for both natural and agricultural systems. In order to communicate, honeybees will perform a dance, which instructs their fellow hive members about where to find nectar or pollen. In general, they will use these instructions to get to a location, and then the visual cues from the flowers will attract them. Bees are most attracted to blue and purple flowers, and if possible, will go to these first. They are also known to continue visiting certain flowers after they have chosen them because their fragrance was appealing. Overall, bee flowers are open during the day, have bright colors, and have a landing platform. The majority of pollination comes from bats, birds, butterflies, moths, and bees. It is because of these incredible animals that the diversity of plant life can thrive. Pollination is one of nature's best examples of a win-win relationship, and it shows how each living thing relies on everything else around them to survive. We hope you enjoyed learning about pollinators. Thanks for watching!